It was a time for dreamers. The late 40s, the post-war economy was booming. Life was on the verge of a technology and service explosion. Soon, every household would have at least one color TV. Who would imagine such a thing? Well, a young man named Fred Hill could. Fred was raised by his single mother, and early in life, he was bitten by the technology bug. He worked in his home's coal bin in downtown Hamilton, fixing and installing taxi radios. And Fred could not imagine how the technology boom was about to change his life and life in the Hamilton area. This is a one-of-a-kind story from the city of Hamilton. Life was about to change for Fred when he met a junior at Westdale High School by the name of Lois Moore. Fred always knew what he wanted, and Lois would be no exception.
He was a young man of 18 when I met him. He was very outgoing and rather flamboyant, a little bit too much for me at the time.
Eventually, Lois warmed up to Fred and even loaned him $100 to start his business. A marriage proposal soon followed, but surprisingly, the proposal would come from Lois.
We had acquired the Main Street property, and we had a place to live, and we had a refrigerator. Now that was most important in 1950 because refrigerators were very hard to come by. Husbands, not so much. They were easy to come by.
As husband and wife, Fred and Lois moved into the top floor of an old house at the corner of Main Street and East Avenue. The downstairs was reserved for the business. As the business grew, so did the family. First came Sharon, then Marcia, Robbie, David, and finally Donald.
Oh, Fred was a good family man, and the boys, they didn't know they were learning a lot, probably years back. I always had the boys involved in most of the things.
Fred Hill continued to seize opportunity from wherever it came. But being an astute businessman, Fred knew if he was going to stay in business, he had to do what he enjoyed.
He involved all of his interests in his business. And I think that's what made him an entrepreneur as far as I was concerned. He did things differently than other people.
The television boom continued throughout the 50s and 60s. In the early 70s, the service department moved to Burlington, and it became a state-of-the-art operation. Fred Hill was the consummate salesperson. He saw every opportunity as an opportunity to sell. Out of the 5 children, Rob was the only one who seemed to share his father's passions, particularly for the moving picture. Rob pursued studies in television production at Mohawk College and went on to work at CHCH-TV and the CBC, and with the help of his father, he made his first moving picture. Fred's dream of creating a niche for Rob was realized with Rob taking over Hill's production services in Burlington.
When Fred Hill passed away, it was such a shock to all of us that worked for Hills. It was just so unexpected. It was, we were going along so great. Fred Hill was probably at the height of his career. He just lived life to his fullest.
Fred had been president, of course. And so it was suggested that I take the presidency when Fred died. And Fred Vogel became manager.
Right away, I knew that I had to kind of take Dave under my wing, so to speak, because Dave had a lot of experience as far as selling now, and of course all the theoretical business. And so together, we started to continue the tradition of Hill TV.
Fortunately, Fred Hill's death happened to correspond with an upswing in the economy, allowing the transfer of power to proceed without a glitch.
We had record sales, and we actually had record profits. Business was terrific.
Unfortunately, the good times would not last. The 90s were coming, and so was a whole new way of doing business.
Business has always been competitive, I think, but in the late 80s, business was very good. You really couldn't do a whole lot wrong. But we found that when the 90s started, you really had to specialize, and you can't be everything to everybody.
And we both came to the conclusion that a small business cannot exist on just selling televisions and VCRs.
And people don't want to buy a home theater system with a washing machine beside it, sort of thing. So we had to make some tough decisions as to what product that we're going to carry and how to do a better job, because there's more competition coming on stream.
Today, Hills TV and Radio is more of a service provider than a merchandiser.
So it is service-based. It is finding out what the client needs, giving them options on what they can do. It is quite amazing on the new technologies.
Part of Hill's future lies in integration of systems, whether it's a home theater system or security systems for business or home application. Over the years, we've sold, as I said, everything from pools to boats to you name it, appliances. Now we're diversified in with the video production, with the service, with the home theater, with the retail, and it seems as though one department may be down, but the other one will be up. So, it's over the long term has really worked out well.
With just a high school education, Fred Hill took a simple hobby and turned it into a multi-million-dollar-a-year business that spans a half-century. Will the next generation conquer the challenges of the latest technology boom? Well, they're doing pretty well so far. Only time will tell where Hills TV will be in another 50 years. But one thing is for sure, this is truly a one-of-a-kind story from the city of Hamilton.